Mayor Allen, it is now 6:30. Start the meeting.
Thank you, Clerk. I have a calling this meeting to order. Can I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor Moore, Councillor Maud Chapman. That the regular meeting of the Council of the Township of Springwater of November 3rd, 2021 come to order at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Due to COVID, Council is taking the necessary steps to limit in-person meetings. As such, members of Council and staff are participating in this meeting electronically, and the meeting is being live streamed. You can watch the meeting live on the Township's website at www.springwater.ca. You can listen to the meeting from a telephone during the meeting by dialing 647-558-0588 and use the following meeting ID 824-9573-1825 and the pound sign. This option is only available during the meeting. And if you want to look at the live streaming, you can watch the video on the Township's YouTube channel after it is over. Council, are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest with respect to the matters we're dealing with this evening? Seeing none, can I have a mover and seconder to call the public meeting to order, please? Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the public meeting of the Council held under Section 34 of the Planning Act for Zoning Bylaw Amendment ZB 2021-013 by R. DeBox on behalf of G. Morley and Sons Transport Limited Incorporated be called to order at 6:31 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Welcome to this public meeting of Springwater Township Council held in compliance with Section 34 of the Planning Act to give the public an opportunity to express their views in regard to proposed amendments to the Township of Springwater zoning bylaws amended. The first part of this meeting is to present the amendment. Following that, the public will be given the opportunity to make an oral submission through the Zoom application. Any person wishing to make an oral submission must have notified the Township prior to 8:30 a.m. this morning and must have been added to the commenters list. If a person or public body who files an appeal of a decision of the Township of Springwater in respect of a temporary use application does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or written submissions to the Township before the proposed temporary use bylaw is passed, the Ontario Land Tribunal may dismiss all or part of the appeal. All of the comments or questions should be addressed through myself as chair. Oral submissions will be included in this meeting's minutes and form part of the public record, including the name and address of the speaker as information collected under the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The minutes of the meeting will be posted on the Township's website. We are dealing with ZB 2021-013 by R. DeBox of 3176 Highway 26. I will now call upon the Deputy Clerk to confirm notice of this meeting and the dates on which notice was given.
Notice of this public meeting was mailed on the 14th day of October 2021 to the owner of the subject lands and to the assessed owners of 14 properties in the Township of Springwater within 240 meters of the area to which the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would apply, and to all persons and public bodies as prescribed under the Planning Act and its regulations. Notice was also posted at the assessed properties to which the proposed amendment applies at locations visible from Highway 26 and Horseshoe Valley Road West. The notice was also placed on the Township's website.
Make a correction. My script said the Deputy Clerk would be saying this, but it was our illustrious Clerk, Ainsworth. Apologies. Has the Planning Department received any correspondence in response to the notice of public meeting?
Correspondence has been received from the Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority in an email dated October 22nd, 2021, and the Ministry of Transportation in an email dated October 22nd, 2021. All submissions are attached to the agenda for review.
Thank you. I now call upon Planner Belcour to give a presentation outlining the purpose and effect of this proposal.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'll just share my screen now. Okay, can everybody see that all right?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. The Township of Springwater has received an application for zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-013 submitted by Rick DeBox on behalf of G. Morley and Sons Transfer Ltd. As required by condition 4 of the Committee of Adjustment. So as required by condition 4 of the Committee of Adjustments decision B1221 for surplus farm building consent and in line with planning policy surrounding such consent, the applicant is proposing to rezone the existing agricultural zone on 3176 Highway 26 to the agricultural exception and agricultural consolidation zones. Additionally, the agricultural exception zone is proposed to recognize the existing accessory building size on the severed land and allow for the construction of an additional detached garage. No amendments to the existing environmental protection zone on the subject lands are being proposed. The retained lands are proposed to be rezoned agricultural consolidation to prohibit residential uses to satisfy condition 4 of the consent decision, which is a requirement of provincial, county, and township planning policy for surplus farm dwelling severances. The environmental protection zone remains as is. While the severed lands are proposed to be rezoned agricultural exception to permit a total maximum detached accessory building area of 252 square meters, to recognize the size of the existing storage building on the severed lands and permit the construction of 127 square meter additional accessory building, detached garage with a height of 5.8 meters for personal storage of a boat, vehicles, and lawn maintenance equipment. The proposed detached accessory building will be required to meet all other requirements of the zoning bylaw, including setbacks and lot coverage, as well as any other necessary approvals such as MTO and MVCA. Further, again, to satisfy condition 4 of the associate consent, this exception zone would prevent the keeping of livestock and any accessory structures on the severed lands. That concludes my overview of the application, and I am available should council have any questions this evening.
Thank you, Planner Belcour. I'll now call upon the moderator to provide the number of people who have registered to ask questions or make comments regarding this application.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There are no commenters registered to make comments regarding this application tonight.
Thank you. Do any members of council have questions or comments regarding this application? I'm not seeing any, so thank you to all who participated in the public meeting with respect to this proposed zoning bylaw amendment application and for showing interest in this matter. And I have a mover and seconder to adjourn this public meeting. Councillor Moore, Councillor Cabal, that this public meeting held under Section 34 of the Planning Act, RSO 1990, CP 13 as amended on zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-13 by R. DeBox on behalf of G. Morley and Sons Transport Limited does now adjourn at 6:38 p.m. All those in favor? That is carried. Can I have directions following the public meeting? Can I have a mover and seconder for that, please? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ritchie, that the report from the planner regarding ZB 2021-013, DeBox, dated November 3rd, 2021, be received and that bylaw 5000-344 be presented to council for consideration approval on November 3rd, 2021, subject to comments received during the public meeting. All those in favor? That is carried. We move on to item 5, deputations and presentations, which there are none. Item 6 is question period, and as is stated on the agenda, questions are able to be submitted about items being discussed in tonight's agenda, either by emailing them into the clerk's office or requesting to present the questions verbally during the meeting. As I say, details are on the agenda for that process. Clerk Ainsworth, have there been any submissions received for this evening?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. There have been no submissions received for this evening's meeting.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7.1 minutes of council. Can I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Moore. Any questions with respect to the 1 minute, October 20, 2021? The recommendation is that the minutes of council listed herein be approved as presented. The minutes of the special meeting of council held October 20, 2021. All those in favor? That is carried. Item 7.3 lists minutes of boards, committees, and organizations. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Ma Chapman, Councillor Cabral. There are 4 of them listed. Any comments or questions with respect to these? And the motion reads that the minutes of boards, committees, and other organizations listed herein be received as information. The Elmville Business Improvement Area meeting, September 16, 2021. The Library Board meeting, September 21. The Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee, August 19, and the Joint Accessibility Advisory Committee of October 14, 2021. All those in favor? That is carried. Correspondence and information items, there are none. So we move to action reports. Item 9. And action reports. Can I have a mover and seconder to get these on the floor, please? Councillor Cabral, Councillor Ritchie. We have 9.2 through 9.8. Are there any questions or desire to pull any of these? Councillor Hannah?
I have a question on 9.5, please.
9.5. Councillor Ma Chapman?
I have a question on 9.2, 9.3, and 9.8
3.
for comment.
Councillor Ritchie?
9.3, I'd like you to pull it, please.
Okay. And I would like to pull 9.7. Okay, in order of the items as listed, 9.2, question, Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just have a couple of comments if it can be addressed and maybe a comment back. I just want to explain. So the ones who have a medical reason for not getting vaccinated, the township is going to pay for their vaccinations, for their testings, and give them a 2-hour span to go get it tested. And the ones who have no reason, they have to pay for them themselves and on their own time. Is that correct?
We'll go to Manager Marchand, please, to answer that.
Through the chair, yes, you are correct, Councillor Ma Chapman. For those that have a medical exemption, we will be paying for the rapid test, and those that do not, and it is a personal preference, will be required to take the educational training along with the rapid testing at a cost to themselves on their own time.
The follow-on. Thank you, Mayor Allen. And what happens if the staff just gets one dose and doesn't have the second dose by December 31st? Will they have to do their own testing on their own time?
Manager Marshall?
Through the chair, you are correct. They will have to do the testing at their own expense. And if they do not get it by the dates there will be progressive discipline process going forward.
Follow on?
And thank you, Mayor Allen, the IDEL, is that with or without pay?
Through you to chair, that is with pay. It is an ESA protected leave, and it's a paid protective leave.
Thank you.
Thank you. 9.5, Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to, I think it was Manager Ha that wrote the report. It's to do with the winter operation plan. I thought it was a lot of detailed information in there. My question is, in the past, when the county snowplows drive through Elmville, they've charged us for dropping their blade and plowing the road on their way through. My question is that policy still in effect? Do they still charge us? Do they still drop their blade? And if so, what's it cost us?
Good point.
Manager Ha.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mayor Allen, to Councillor Hannah. Yes, the county still plows our connecting links through Elmville, Yonge Street and Queen Street. I will have to follow on and get the information on costs through the county.
Follow up, if I may.
Please.
It used to be, I believe, $2,000 annually. I don't know if it's gone up or if it's still the same. And when we're doing our information, if you like, could you ascertain or let us know if there's any reciprocal plowing done by Springwater Township on any roads that are county responsibility? And are we billing them for them, or are we just doing it? So if I got that information, I'd be happy. Thank you.
Yep,
Okay,
no problem.
I see Manager Ha acknowledging
Yep.
that, so that's
I
good.
can do it.
Okay, moving on to 9.8, again, Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just a clarification. Am I reading it right where the two lots will become one lot?
Okay, Planner Belcour.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Through you to Councillor Ma Chapman. It will not form one lot. So 5 and 7 Simcoe Street, they went through the boundary adjustment process to shift the middle property line slightly in order to merge a portion of, I believe it was 5 Simcoe Street with 7 Simcoe Street. The deeming bylaw has to happen. So at the end of the day, there will still be 2 lots. However, the middle lot line will be slightly adjusted.
Thank you.
Planner Belcour, what's the eventual intent for these properties? Do we know?
Currently, the property owner, Mrs. Buchanan, owns both of the properties. And because her garage is situated very close to the property line, she wanted to adjust the line slightly so that she could have a little bit more space when she's getting in and out of her car. So at present time, it's the understanding that the lots will remain as 2 single detached dwellings, just with an adjusted lot line.
Thank you. Okay, moving back up. So we have we're pulling 2 items, 9.3, 9.7. So the motion is that the action reports 9.2 through 9.8 be received. The recommendations contained therein be approved as presented. 9.2 COVID-19 mandatory vaccination policy. 9.4 municipal modernization program intake 2 transfer payment agreement HCM project. 9.5 winter operations plan. 9.6 zoning bylaw amendment ZB 2021-010 site plan approval. Willow Creek Baptist Church. And 9.8 deeming bylaw request DB 2021-001 Buchanan, with the exception of 9.3 and 9.7 to be dealt with separately. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, we're dealing with 9.3. Mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please. Councillor Cabral, Deputy Mayor Coughlin. We had this Councillor Ma Chapman and Councillor Ritchie. So we'll start with Councillor Ma Chapman, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to know what we paid per acre when we bought it.
Okay, that would be Director Radigan, please.
Mayor Allen, I can answer that question. The
Oh, sorry.
80,000 through
Go ahead.
you to Councillor Chapman, the purchase price for the township was the $80,000 per acre, the same price that the township would be selling this portion of property to the county of Simcoe.
Thank you.
Councillor Ritchie?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. In regards to the price of the property, they're right. We paid 80,000 an acre. We had it appraised, but we bought it on an acreage basis. And that's usually the way it is when you're dealing with the size of land. Fact of the matter is we're dealing with a lot size now, 1 acre. And lot sizes and lot values are a lot more today in Springwater Township than $80,000. Far more. So I think, being that we have such a good working relationship with the county, I think it would only be fair to ask them to pick up our side of the legal fees in closing this deal. And we're not out of line to ask for that either. Like, you can't go around the township and buy a lot for that size for anything less than anywhere from $300,000 to $500,000. So they're getting a hell of a bargain basement price as far as I'm concerned. So to ask them to pick up the legal fees, if they're going to squawk about it, say, well, we'll go back to council and we'll get an appraisal on it, independent appraisal. So that's what I would do with that. Thank you.
Clerk Ainsworth, any thoughts, comments on that?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I am just bringing up a document that I have regarding this. It'll just be one moment. Thank you. I was just bringing up the offer letter that the county of Simcoe had submitted, and within the offer letter, aside from the $80,000 per acre, they do state that the county agrees to pay the apportionate costs for the land clearing and the servicing. But there is nothing in there regarding the legal costs. That is something that we can bring up to the county as a request by the township. Generally, legal costs for closing of a sale that is not complicated, such as this one, hovers around $1,000. So we can make that request of the county of Simcoe.
Okay, follow on, Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I just want to bring that to light, but you know what, because we have such a good working relationship, but you know what, when we sit down to talk to them about the closing of the deal, they can pay for our legal fees, and because it states as a portion, well, there'll be a portion for their side, we're a portion for our side. You can pay for our side as far as I'm concerned, because you're getting a sweet deal. By the way, how about waiving the cost of snow plowing through the villages of Elmvale or Hillsdale or any of the county roads that Councillor Hannah brought up? Because to my recollection, I think it was around $30,000 that we paid a year. It could have been more or less, but I think it was in around that number that we paid a year for the county to plow through Elmvale to keep it open. And that's a good point Councillor Hannah's bringing up. So you can kind of sit down and have a nice coffee with them and just remind them that, we'd like a bit of a break on that.
Well, okay, I think good point to raise, and we'll, Clerk Ainsworth, can you follow up on that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Allen. As the motion states that the sale price be set at $80,000, and the additional cost would be related to development of the property. Should council want to seek the legal costs as well as any additional items, we would need an amendment to this motion to include those items.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Here we go.
Thank you, Mayor. And further to the discussion, with the acre that is being apportioned of the hasty tract that we own, which acre are we speaking of? And is there a design drawing as to which acre or their site location?
There was at the end of the report. If you scroll down to the end of it, there was an appendix.
Yeah. So it's highlighted in yellow, correct? And there's the in and out turn lane coming through. I'm just curious that if the county has that portion of it, the in and out turn lane would then be the county's, or am I reading this incorrect?
Clerk Ainsworth, do you want to tackle that? Or do you want, I know that CEO Schmidt's been involved in the negotiations, but CEO?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through conversations with the county, it would be a shared access, which essentially would be in the township's ownership, and the county would be required to have an encroachment agreement, if you will, to ensure liability, if you will. Those are the discussions that we've had to date. And further to Councillor Ritchie's comments about legal fees, again, I think that's something that definitely we can pursue with the county to ensure that that those costs are covered, in addition to the servicing costs, as well as their portion of servicing costs, as well as the tree clearing and such.
Okay. Follow on, Councillor Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. And I guess this kind of backs on to Councillor Hannah's comment about the county servicing Elmville. So if the county building is in there, and we talk about community hubs and how there's less fees associated to the ratepayers if, snow plowing and maintenance of the general property. So is there a maintenance schedule then that would be attached to the sharing of the facility? And would that also be for snow plowing of the parking lot? And it's right adjacent to our fire hall and obviously our community hub. So how would that cost sharing agreement take place? Is that now or after the sale?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Deputy Mayor. My understanding is that they would be walking through maybe not a formal site plan process, but essentially a similar process that would happen through site plan, and we could address that through that agreement.
Councillor Ritchie?
Mayor Allen, I'm quite happy to, like in the CEO Schmidt is cost sharing about the entranceway into the property, which identifies directly with this property and what we're talking about. That brings that right to the forefront as well too, and discussing with them, saying, just sharing the cost of that roadway and the building into it. They could participate in that as well too. And that's all open for discussion as far as that goes. Lot clearing, that's not our responsibility. That's theirs. We won't be getting into that, but the cost sharing of the entranceway, yes, and doing our legal fees, yes, and I'm quite happy to let the CAO see what kind of a deal they can get for us. Thank you.
Okay. All right, then, on that basis, and what CEO Schmidt indicated at the ongoing negotiations discussions, then the motion, we have a mover and seconder, that the report from the clerk regarding the sale of land portion 1132 Snow Valley Road, Hasty Track 2, County Simcoe, dated November 3rd, 2021 be received, that council provide preliminary authorization for the sale of up to 1 acre of land from the property located at 1132 Snow Valley Road to the County of Simcoe for the construction of a paramedic post, and that the sale price be set at $80,000 per acre of land, in addition to the proportionate share of all costs that are directly related to the development of the property. All those in favor? That is carried. Moving on to 9.7. I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor. Councillor Moore and Councillor Ma Chapman. My comments with respect to this, I know we've had discussions, it's been quite a process, and but I still feel strongly that there are not sufficient specifics in the amendments to the official plan and the site plan. There's not sufficient detail. They don't address the issues and concerns raised, and I just don't feel comfortable with saying, trust us, we will negotiate on a case-by-case basis. I don't think they're tough enough to be able to depend on to control if and how these facilities come to our township. So I have always maintained that I would like to see more detail in the amendments with respect to lighting, odor, fencing, landscaping, access, security, parking, location of certain infrastructure on these facilities. I'm not confident that without those, there'll be enough control on a case-by-case basis. So I'm not able to support these amendments as presented. Councillor Cabral?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I guess my comment would be that there were certain aspects of the amendments that I didn't feel that comfortable with. But on the whole of it, after reading the report, much of the regulatory aspect of it is in obtaining their license. And it's also up to the federal government when those particular aspects are broken. Site plans, I think, our staff are well versed in that. They know what we're looking for. And even though I don't agree with everything that's there, we did hire a consultant to provide input. I read the comments. The consultant did reply back to them. I think it's time to move forward with this. I'm in support of the amendments the way they stand.
Okay. So the motion is that the report from the Director of Planning Services regarding, sorry, Director Spagnell, did you want to make any comment before we read the motion?
No, Mayor Allen, I'm fine. Just listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
That the report from the Director of Planning Services regarding cannabis production facility recommendation report dated November 3rd, 2021 be received, and that the official plan amendment 63 OPA 63 be presented for consideration and submitted to the County of Simcoe for approval. That zoning bylaw amendment 5000-346 be presented for consideration, and that the implementing site plan control bylaws amended be considered for approval. I would request Clerk Ainsworth a recorded vote on this.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. When I state your name, please state yes or no. Councillor Cabral,
Yes.
Councillor Ritchie,
Yes.
Councillor Chapman,
Yes.
Councillor Moore,
Yes.
Councillor Hannah,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Coughlin,
Yes.
and Mayor Allen.
No.
That motion is carried.
Thank you. Moving on to information reports. Item 10.1. Could I have a mover and seconder to get this on the floor, please? Councillor Moore, Councillor Cabral. There are 5 items and on there. Are there any questions with respect to any of these items? All right, the items report items listed herein be received as information. Phase 1 Regulation of Conservation Authorities Act, Roma delegations, Fire Service Activity Report July through September 2021, SU 2021-003 and ZB 2021-012, re the Thompson Lands, Temporary Use Agreement TU-2021-003, re Smith Brothers Farms Inc. All those in favor? That is carried. Verbal reports, official plan update, Director Spagnell, is there any?
I do not have any updates tonight, Mayor Allen. Thank you.
Same with economic development?
That's correct.
Thank you. Moving on to 11.3, Midhurst Development Update, General Manager Ramdeo, please.
Good evening, Mayor Allen, Deputy Mayor Coughlin, and members of council. I begin this evening's update with the site works again. The utility contractor continues to work on the gas, electrical, and communication installations. Another contractor is also working on the storm pond and general site cleanup. After these activities, there'll be minimal works on the site over the winter. The works on the water treatment and the interim wastewater plants are continuing, and those will continue over the winter. We also have the NVCA permit for the effluent pipe from the site to the Willow Creek and await the Ministry of Transportation's permit. The effluent pipe works will commence once we have MTO's permit, and those will continue over the winter as well. At the last meeting, I announced the project to signalize the intersection of Wilson Drive and Snow Valley Road. Since then, we've had the project kickoff meeting, so the contractor is ready to go and actually will commence site preparation works next week. And when they have the materials, then you'll see that start going up. Moving on to the model homes, the developer has the building permits for the model home, and actually one is under construction right now. As for the actual home building, the developer projects that the first occupancy of new homes will be in December of 2022. So that's their plan right now. And that brings me to the end of the Midhurst development update. Thanks.
General Manager Ramdeo, what state of completion does the water and wastewater treatment plant have to be at before issuance of any building permits?
It's not directly related to the actual state of completion of the building permits. Building permits is more tied to fire protection in the site. So that's being handled through the fire department. Occupancy of the homes cannot be until after the commissioning of the two plants. So they must be ready to go before people can move in.
Okay. And I know you had said last time that within 10 days, a certain number of homes had been sold out of phase one, and there were some held back for December. Can you give us an update on that status? Are they all sold out?
I do understand from the developer that there are a few remaining. I'm not privy to as to why they have a few, but I also do understand that there are future phases that will be released shortly. I do not have timing on those releases.
Okay, but the ability to sell those future releases, they'd have to do what and come back to council with what?
I do not believe they have to come back to council for permission to sell the future releases. It's all within the volume that the water and wastewater plant can accommodate. I suspect that what they are doing in terms of the phased releases is more of a marketing effort as opposed to something tied to capacities.
Director Spagno, did you have something to add to that?
Yes, Mayor Allen, thank you. The only other thing I'd like to add as well, just back to the building permit question, is there still remains a hold provision in place also, which lifting is subject to completion of the services up to a certain state, which will really rely on the status and the progress of the servicing being in place. General Manager Ramdeo is correct in his statements about the release of lots, but there is another a hold provision there that will come back to council, and it's at that point when council and staff will have a better determination as to when building permits will be released.
Thank you. Any other question? Councillor Ritchie.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I think we've addressed this, but I'm going to ask it again. How much of the first phase has been purchased? That's the question to the general manager.
You mean sold to purchasers?
Yeah.
I see CAO Smith just coming on. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In conversation through you to Councillor Ritchie, sorry. In conversation with the developers, we've been advised that of the 342 units available in phase one, I believe 270 have been sold at this time.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Covet Updates, CAO Schmidt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just quickly here. So today you may have heard the province announce that they will be expanding eligibility for booster doses of COVID-19 vaccine to additional groups of high-risk individuals, and that'll be commencing this Saturday. Those vulnerable populations include individuals aged 70 and over, so born in 1971 or earlier, healthcare workers and designated essential caregivers in congregate settings, individuals who received a complete series of AstraZeneca, so 2 doses of AstraZeneca, or 1 dose of the Janssen vaccine, and First Nation, Inuit, and Métis adults and their non-Indigenous household members will all be eligible. Again, this assumes that they've had at least 6 months has passed since their last dose. And again, starting Saturday at 8 o'clock, these individuals will be able to book their appointments through the province's COVID-19 vaccination portal or by calling the provincial vaccine contact center. With regards to the township, all of our township facilities do remain open to the public, again, with the exception of our community halls. From a vaccination standpoint, if we look at eligible population, that's 12 years and older. For Simcoe Muskoka, 86.9 have received a single dose, whereas 83.1 have received 2 doses. From a Springwater perspective, again, eligible population, 12 and over, 92.5 have received a single dose, whereas 89.6 have received 2 doses. And then finally, Mr. Mayor, from a case count perspective, Springwater's now had 335 confirmed cases of COVID, which is an increase of 23 cases since my last update, which was on October 6th. Of those, 323 have recovered, none are in hospital, and 2 have passed. And that concludes my update. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions for CAO on this topic? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And through you, is there an update on a projected date for the reopening of our community halls? Or are they just, is that to be determined?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor. At this point in time, it's yet to be determined. As you are likely aware, there was an email communicated to members of council yesterday regarding some challenges that we're having with one of our other facilities, namely the Elmville Arena. And hence we will look to open some of those community halls in the near future, but again, not sure that we're actually getting the requests as well, and or the need to open them at this stage. So again, it will be something that we'll continue to monitor over the next little while, and should the need arise, we'll continue, or we'll commence opening up those facilities.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to 11.5 county updates. Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. And as council and residents are aware, I think the most pertinent issue with the county has been the bins. So those have rolled out as of the beginning of the week. And so far feedback has been actually quite positive. So there has been a decision of county council to permit exchange of bins. So residents who are wishing to downsize their bins can do so with no fee up until July 1st. Correct, Marilyn? July 1st?
Yep.
Thank you. And then after that, there will be a fee per bin so that transition can move forward. And we have received our county binders, and we will proceed with budget with the county starting tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.
Just further to that, the mechanism for exchange starts in January. There has to be a system developed to initiate exchange, with a hope of starting the physical exchanges by the end of February, all of which is described on the county website. Councillor Ma Chapman.
Thank you, Marilyn. I was just going to say that I sat on the meeting from the county on last Thursday, I think. It was very informative. And that's what they were saying, but I did watch our garbage yesterday. It was pretty neat that they come and pick up the bins and dump it and without getting out. So it was pretty good. It's a little slower, but I think by the time they get their route down, everything will be a little faster, but it was kind of neat to watch.
Just imagine that with 3 feet of snow, Councillor Ma Chapman. Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. Either through you or the Deputy Mayor. The questions that I've received are regards to the existing blue bins that people have in their garbage pails. I believe at one time there was some talk about having a central location where they could dispose of them, or I guess my question is there any official idea of how people can get rid of their existing garbage cans and buckets and so on.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Marilyn, and through you, all the bins can be delivered to any of the county waste facilities. And further to that, there's actually quite a few Kijiji ads. I know that sounds interesting, but if residents are looking to have them picked up, there are people who are looking to repurpose the bins and will pick them up at your home. So there seems to be a lot of repurposing with them. So just an idea, if residents are unable to get those to the facility, that might be a suggestion for them.
Follow-up?
Yes.
Can I suggest that if it hasn't been, if it has, I haven't seen it, can we suggest that there be some communication so people are aware of the information that the deputies just provided?
Yes, that's I think has been and will continue to be, but point taken. Thank you. I use the blue bins that we used to have to store kindling in a shed so that it holds it quite well. And I use my green bin for storing bird seed so that the mice don't get into it because you can snap the lid. So, and a grass seed because it keeps it dry over the winter. Councillor Cabral.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I'm just curious whether or not those two types of plastics are recyclable, because there's certainly enough room in those huge bins to put them in there. So I just was wondering about that. I see the deputy mayor is nodding her head in the negative. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor.
I was actually quite surprised to learn that the recycling bins were not recyclable.
Okay, thank you for those updates, and there'll be more information come forward on them. Municipal updates. Does anybody have a municipal update? Councillor Hannah.
Thank you, Mayor. Update on the Midhurst pumpkin carving contest. Big success. It's I think they received 32 entries into the contest. You have to go on site to see them. Some of them are excellent, and you can still vote for whichever one you like, obviously. There's prizes available. If you go onto villageofmidhurst.ca voting, it's there. And this was organized by the Midhurst MCRA, the Midhurst Hall Board volunteers. So it was a great event. And the pumpkins were donated by Brown's Farm.
Good, thank you. I would just add that the Pumpkin Palooza is on this Sunday. And for those who not sure what that is involved with that, it's a pumpkin hurling event on Pools Road. They've had a big wooden structure that hurls pumpkins that you bring your own pumpkin, and you can contribute some money to the Lions Club, which are raising funds through this. And they get hurled on the field, and you can watch them smash, and kids love it. And I'm told this year that there's a new pumpkin hurler, which is steel, which has been designed and built by Brian Smith and Ron Sheridan at Barry Welding. So worth the trip out to see this new whiz bang pumpkin hurler. So any other municipal updates? Deputy Mayor Coughlin.
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm beginning to receive inquiries from residents about Santa Claus parades and tree lightings, and I'm just curious if we could have an update or discussion amongst staff and council pertaining to our December events forthcoming, so that we are able to accurately answer our residents.
Okay, why don't we leave that with staff, CEO Schmidt, to organize what the update is, and he can communicate with the CEO. Any comment on that now?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my understanding, and stand to be corrected, but I believe at the end of October last week, there was an announcement made by the province that Santa Claus parades and such can move forward. I believe one of the caveats is that those events obviously would be outside, and for those individuals that are not living in the same household and can't distance more than the 6 feet, would be required to wear a mask outdoors in those events.
Okay. Follow on, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Moore, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just to follow up to that, do we have an agenda for Remembrance Day? and what we will
I was
be.
just, I was just going to cover that topic.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you.
But CEO Schmidt, do you want to take a first crack at that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Maybe I'll defer that to Clerk Ainsworth, as I believe her and her staff are organizing that.
Okay, sorry, Clerk Ainsworth, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And as the CAO mentioned with the announcement last week, it got a lot of different organizations last minute planning for Remembrance Day, because up until then they weren't sure if they could move forward. So we're just in the midst of gathering the information, and a email will be sent out to council by the end of the week with all of the details of the various events that council generally does attend.
I have for the last couple of years attended Elmville for Remembrance Day, as has Councillor Cabral. I will be attending an event outside of Springwater, 100th year celebration of a veteran outside of Springwater. So I will not be able to attend, as I've told Clerk Ainsworth, but Councillor Cabral will be there in Elmville. Councillor Hannah, are you going to Springwater again? Is that your desire?
Yes, sir. As you know, I was part of the organization at the beginning and getting the annual wreath that we lay there. I believe Council Moore joined me there last year.
Okay. And I know, Deputy Mayor, you've been to Barrie several years. Might you consider going to Barrie again this year?
I'm happy to do so if that's the will of council. If there's no one else to represent Springwater there. However, my desire would be to attend Elmville with my family and children.
Okay. Well, I'll leave that choice up to you. Councillor Ma Chapman?
Thank you, Mayor Allen. I was going to say I could probably do Barrie. I did do Barrie 2 years ago. If Deputy was to do Elmville again with their family, I can do Barrie.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So it looks like we've got things pretty well covered, but look forward to the Clerk Ainsworth communication on that further. Good. Deputy Mayor Coughlin?
Thank you, Mayor, and I'm sure that Manager Dean and her staff are on that. So will communication be going out to understand that Springwater doesn't host any holiday events? However, we do support them, and we do support them quite well, in my opinion. So would we be then communicating that we are now able to, with the provincial direction, able to support those events again with road closures and things as such?
I think CEO Schmidt's got to work on that still. There's more work to be done, and he'll be communicating with us on that. Yep, he's shaking his head. Councillor Ma Chapman?
Sorry, this came to mind and I can't remember if it was out in the news or not. Was the CP holiday train canceled this year?
CAO, do you know, or Clerk Ainsworth? I haven't heard anything.
For you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware. That's something that we can take back and advise.
Okay, good. All right, notice of motions. Any notices of motion? Items for future consideration. Any items for future consideration? I guess we've just touched on those. Okay, moving on to bylaws 14.1. Could I have a mover and seconder for approval of bylaws, please? Councillor Ma Chapman and Deputy Mayor Coughlin, that the bylaws listed herein be signed and sealed by the Mayor and Clerk 2021-103 Municipal Modernization Program Intake 2 Transfer Payment Agreement HCM Project 2021-104 OPA 2021-003 Cannabis Production Facilities 2021-105 Deeming Bylaw Buchanan 2021-106 Site Plan Control Bylaw Amendment Cannabis Production Facility 5344 ZB 2021-013 Re-R DeBox G. Morley and Sons Transport Limited Incorporated 5345 ZB 2021-10 Willow Creek Baptist Church 5346 ZB 2021-5 Cannabis Production Facilities. All those in favor? That is carried. Confirmatory bylaw mover and seconder. Councillor Cabral and Councillor Moore. The bylaw 2021-107 to confirm and adopt the proceedings of council at the regular meeting held on November 3rd, 2021, listed herein, be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. All those in favor? And adjournment, mover and seconder, please. Councillor Moore and Councillor Cabral, that the regular meeting of the Township of Springwater does now adjourn at 7:25 p.m. to meet again in a regular meeting on November 17th, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. All those in favor? Thank you. We're 4 minutes ahead of last time. Have a good night.